Today, we are diving into something truly fascinating, a quest to trace Vietnamese family history. And let me tell you, this is so much more than just a hobby. It's a journey into the heart of Vietnamese culture, a way to connect with a story that goes back for centuries. So, you might be wondering, how on earth is that even possible? Tracing your family back centuries? Well, in Vietnam, it's not a fantasy. For generations, families have been meticulously recording their lineage. The real adventure is figuring out how you can tap into that incredible history. So let's get into it. First things first, we've got to understand the why behind all this. This isn't just about satisfying some personal curiosity. In Vietnamese culture, knowing your family's story is a huge part of your identity.
Exactly. This whole tradition of record keeping is literally woven into the fabric of society. It's all about respect, about honoring the people who came before you. It's a cultural duty that's deeply rooted in Confucian values that have shaped family life for hundreds and hundreds of years.
And get this wasn't just some casual family tradition. This quote here, it's basically an instruction from a scholar in the 18th century royal court. Maintaining and updating the family story was a formal responsibility, a serious scholarly thing to do. Okay, let's get to the centerpiece of this entire quest. If you're searching for your family's history, there is one single document, one almost sacred text, that holds the key to pretty much everything. It's called the Gia Phả. This is the treasure you are looking for. It's the family or clan book, and it is the absolute heart of most genealogical research in Vietnam. You can think of it like a living document, passed down from generation to generation, holding the soul of a family's history. And the amount of detail in these books is just staggering. Seriously, it's not unusual for a Japove to trace a family line back 22, 23, sometimes even 24 generations or more. We're talking about a continuous record that can stretch back for centuries, way before modern record keeping was even a thing in many parts of the world. And this is where things get really interesting, because the whole approach is completely different. In the West, we usually start with ourselves and work our way back in time. But as you can see here, a Gia Phả starts with a single designated ancestor and works forward to today. What does that mean? Well, you don't just get a thin line of your direct ancestors. You get a huge, comprehensive history of the entire clan. We're talking distant cousins, aunts, uncles, branches of the family you probably never even knew existed. But no great quest comes without its challenges. Finding your Gia Phả and figuring out what's inside can be a really tricky process, with some very specific hurdles you've got to be ready to jump over. So here's the thing. These books aren't just sitting in a public library. They're precious family heirlooms, and they're usually held by the head of the clan, the patriarch. Getting access isn't a given. Some families, because of old traditions, might only let male relatives see it. On top of that, many of the older books are written in an ancient script called Chu Nom, which almost no one can read today without a specialist. And yeah, sometimes families just keep the books secret to protect their history. And then there's this. Just look at that chart for a second. Almost 40% of the entire population of Vietnam has the last name Nguyen. You add in Tran, Lê, and Pham, and you've basically covered 2/3 of the country. So you can see how searching by surname alone is, well, pretty much impossible. Which brings us to the single most important piece of information in your entire search, your family's hometown. Now, I don't just mean where you or your parents grew up. I mean the ancestral village, the place your family comes from. That little piece of information is your golden key. It's the filter that cuts through all the noise of common surnames and points you in the right direction. Okay, so we've seen the treasure map and we've seen the dragons guarding it. So where do you actually begin? Let's break down the first, most critical steps you need to take on this journey. It honestly boils down to these two things to get started. Number one, do everything you possibly can to figure out that ancestral hometown. And number two, talk to the oldest relatives in your family. They are living, breathing history books, full of memories and clues. And when you talk to them, you don't just ask general questions. You've got to be specific. Ask them directly about the hometown. Ask if they know about a Gia Phả and who might have it. Ask about that designated ancestor. Even something like knowing where family graves are located can be a massive clue. Every little story, every name they can remember, it's all a breadcrumb on the trail. Okay, but what if you hit a dead end? What if the family book was lost or destroyed or you just can't get access to it? Don't worry, your journey's not over. It just means it's time to explore a few different paths. Now, here's something you absolutely need to know. Very, very few of these records are online. This next phase of the search is an old-school analog one. And for a lot of people, it means planning a trip to Vietnam to get your hands on the actual physical archives that hold the missing pieces of your family's puzzle.
So where do you even look? Well, your search could take you to institutes in Ho Chi Minh City that have collected thousands of these family books. If your family was Christian, local churches are an absolute gold mine for records. The National Archives have state records, though access can be tough. And you know what? Even local police stations have family registration books called Ho Cow that track who lived where. As you can see, there are a lot of avenues to explore.
So this quest to find your Vietnamese roots, it really is a journey back in time. It's a way to connect with a line of ancestors that stretches across centuries, to discover the stories that literally made you who you are. And that kind of brings us to our final thought. This journey doesn't just end when you find a book. It ends with you realizing that you're the next chapter. So the real question is, what story are you going to add?